to acknowledge the peoples whose land we meet on from our respective positions. Present-day Portland is located on the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Klamath, Clackamas, Band of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. Let us also acknowledge the robust Native community made up of tribal diversity that originates from around the country and whose journeys have brought them to Portland by way of forced displacement or seeking opportunities. But remember, today, these same communities celebrate their heritage, show resiliency and tenacity that would be greatly admired by their ancestors. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Saturday to join us today. For some of you joined us virtually this year, remember back last year when hundreds of us were gathered at the University of Portland campus together for a mock interview event? I still can't believe that was almost a year ago. Little did we know that day that would be the very last time all of us on the Zoom would gather for a public gathering in 2020. Now, as we start 2021, we did not want the pandemic to define our work in a negative way, but to teach us how to be resilient, innovative, forward-thinking in our work. The questions we asked ourselves in 2020 was, what do our young leaders of color need beyond this amazing opportunity of a paid internship to thrive and succeed as young professionals of color? We spent 2020 researching, listening, hearing from our company partners, higher education, most importantly from our college students and graduates. What we heard from everyone is we need to provide more. And this pandemic taught us survival is not enough for our young leaders of color. We believe if we build a robust pool of historically underrepresented college students in a vocational development and wealth building network, Oregon will see an increase in social mobility across communities of color and low-income rural communities in Oregon. In spring and summer of 2021, our newest initiative sign, standing for Survival is Not Enough, will begin its journey. You will hear more about it over the coming months, but today we are focused on the first step of this journey, helping all of our young leaders today at this virtual event, preparing them for the summer 2021 internship season. Thank you to our sponsor, Mainz Brady, for making this event possible, especially to Kelsey on the team. Our founders, Ryan Buchanan, Sue Embry, and Ben Sand. This would not exist if you didn't think about creating this opportunity. Thank you to our volunteer evaluators, each of you on this call, who are preparing our young leaders for the next step in this journey. And thank you to all of our young leaders for applying and believing in us in this work as we invest in you. Please note today is only the beginning, and with it, enjoying the inspiring program we have in store for you. Again, thank you for believing in us and our emerging leaders. Enjoy the day.
Hello, ELI interns, alumni, volunteers, and evaluators. My name is Kelsey New, and I work with Mainz Brady Group right here in Portland, Oregon. We are very honored to be back again this year as the presenting sponsor of the Emerging Leaders virtual mock interview event. I want to thank all of you for being present today, and I want to thank the ELI volunteers and evaluators and the entire team at the contingent for making this event possible. If you're not already familiar with Mainz Brady Group, we are a local technology recruiting firm with offices in the Bay Area, Portland, and Seattle. Well, what a year we have all just emerged from. 2020 was an unpredictable, unrelenting beast. But as I look out at all of you today, virtually, I can't help but think about what 2020 reminded us of. It reminded us that we are resilient. We are adaptable. We are resourceful. We're here for each other, and we have the strength to persevere even after we think we can't go any further. And while last year felt like all we could do was figure out how to survive, what it actually did was get us poised and ready to thrive. Because now you know what you're capable of. Now you know you can handle any curveball or hurdle thrown in front of you. And oftentimes, that's how it can feel when you're trying to land a new internship or an exciting job opportunity. But if you give yourself the space to breathe, let yourself process the challenge in front of you, you'll realize you already have the tools to succeed. When 2020 turned into a year full of social, political, mental, and emotional turmoil, you toughed it out and showed up to 2021 with a plan and a purpose. That is resilient. When you're stuck at home and can't meet up to network, you find an online networking event. That is adaptable. When you don't think you have the right skills for the job that you want, you take a free online course and work with a recruiter on your resume presentation. That is resourceful. And when you've applied to 20 jobs and haven't gotten an interview, you revisit your resume, you revamp that cover letter, and you apply to 20 more. That is perseverance. So while we're still living through and figuring out how to cope with the ways in which 2020 and the pandemic specifically made our lives more difficult, let's all try to remember the things that 2020 showed us. We are all in this together. We will make this work together. Things look and feel differently this year, and I believe in some ways it's for the best. I certainly wish that we could all be gathered inside an impressive and commanding auditorium today, feeding off the energy and excitement of one another. But we're not. But this does not mean we can't be there to support one another in other ways. Use today wisely. Learn from each other, connect with each other, share with one another, and together you'll come out today stronger and more prepared to tackle 2021 than you did when you arrived. And with that, I will leave you to the rest of today's program. Thank you again for welcoming me and the entire Mainz Brady Group family to your event today. We look forward to being a resource for you now and in the future. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nehemiah Heye. It's a privilege and honor to be here with you all. I know it's different with, me recording this right now and being in the past and having it being seen by you all in the future, but I'm just happy to be here and be a part of it all. I was a ELI intern 4 years ago now. Back in 2017, I was able and blessed to work at Friends of the Children, a local nonprofit here, and it was a life-changing experience, and it has been ever since. Not even just from that internship experience, but from the other interns that I've been able to network with still, who are at other companies, to working with the ELI leadership team and being a part of their programs. It really has been something that I'll be thankful for forever, and something I'll never have taken for granted. For you all, I'm currently a program manager at a company called Viewpoint. It's a construction software company here in Portland, where I'm the program manager for talent development and diversity and equity and inclusion. I think a lot of that stems from just my experience in ELI, but I just want to say it's amazing that you all are here. When I think about this past year, 2020, and all the things we had to experience almost a year ago to this date, I think it was March 13th when I got the email that I wasn't coming back to the office that next Monday. Little did we know that we would still be here right now. I think the email said, like, you'll be back March 30th, it has to be like 2 weeks. So those 2 weeks at home, I was like, okay, cool. That'll be fun. This experience work from home was my first like big time job out of college. And I'm like, okay, this is sick. This will be fun. And then it was like, okay, end of April, middle of summer. Okay, we're not going to say any dates anymore now. We were just going to see what happens. And so here we are, still home ever since. I mean, you can see I got my whole, I got my setup going on. But I just want to say, you guys should all be very proud of yourselves for being here right now. I've had some people come up to me. My friends call me Nemo. So let's say, like, Nemo, like, we've been in this pandemic for about a year. I feel like I really let myself go, like I've been able to keep my job, or been able to find another job, or been able to provide for my family still. But I feel like I should have been able to really build up a skill set and like do something new and get like a new certificate, or become really good at golf or whatever. It's random things, and good at knitting. Someone said that. But what I look at them and tell them is, it's just amazing that you're here, and being able to do the things that you just told me, taking care of your family, being able to keep your job or find a new job, being able to just keep moving forward every single day and striving for the future. That's amazing. And you all being here is a testament to that. You can't sell yourself short. And you might want to be like, oh, I could have done this, that. But you're here right now interviewing for an internship in the middle of all this. You come to this point where I'm committed to keeping moving forward. And that's empowering to me. And that's amazing and inspiring. And that's what it is to be that's emerging out from the pack. I mean, say, I'm going to take this next step. I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's going to take a lot. I mean, obviously, that's going to be a lot of perseverance to keep fighting every single day and to maybe at times have to maybe flex your goals a little bit and say, oh, due to this, I might have to pivot a little bit and maybe adapt to my environment in some ways. And Eli's going to stretch you in so many ways. Even this interview process is stretching, and you'll learn so much from that. But be open to it all. Be open to the process and bring your true self to it. I don't want any of you to feel like, oh, I have to bring a different version that someone else is going to accept. Bring yourself. We only want yourself, and we only want you to be who you are. And we want you to take care of yourself in that too, because it might be really easy to really push yourself, and then just be burnt and just get that burnout, But really want you to come here, be yourself, take care of yourself, and also persevere through that. And it sounds like a lot, and it's a tall order, but you all being here and showing up shows that you're built for it and made for it. And I think just from what this year has shown us is that there's always going to be times to adapt and always ways we're going to have to persevere and new tasks we're going to have to take on. I was a social media manager for my internship. No idea what I was doing. And who would have thought I'd be in diversity, equity, inclusion work now, but you just have to be willing to stay on top of your toes, keep pushing, keep going forward, and don't sell yourself short at all. This experience has changed my life forever, thanks to people like Ryan and Ben and others, and being able to stay connected with people like Demetrius now and the work that he's doing and others, and Amani. It's amazing. And I am so thankful that you guys have been exposed to this program and are here right now about to interview. And I just urge you to not give up. Keep pushing. The world will try keeping you pushed down. They don't want to hear your voice. They don't want you to be here right now. They don't want you to be circled by people who look like you. I wish we were in that big auditorium again with all the candidates, but this is not what people are wanting to see in the city of Portland. You guys got to shake it up. And it's been amazing to talk to people about ELI and the work they're doing. Like, wow, that really is happening. Yeah, it's happening. And look at all the students who are here right now who are being a part of it. So I just want to wrap up with that and say, I'm proud of you all. It's amazing that you're here. Keep pushing, keep striving, and the work is all ahead. But the fact that you're here shows that you already are an emerging leader. And I wish you all the best in this interview process and in your internship experience. And don't take a single moment for granted, because it's all going to fly by here and 4 years later and feel like it was just yesterday when I was right there. But just dive in, be yourself, take care of yourself, and persevere through it all. Thank you.
Hello, emerging leaders. I am so honored to have been chosen as your keynote speaker today. And of course, I wish I could be there with you all in person. I think about, where you are right now, and I know where I have been, and I hope I have some words of wisdom or encouragement to impart on you today. When I thought about what I should say today, I actually thought I should just read Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb and call it good, right? She really outlines so many important themes about resilience and where we are and where we want to go. But I will not plagiarize today. I will give you my kind of take on the state of the world, and hopefully where you will be fitting in and you will be transforming. So first of all, I want you all to know that I am so very much like all of you. I am the first person in my immediate family, my mother, father, sister, of us to go to college. I was one of the first people in my extended family to get a graduate degree, and I believe the only person in my extended family to get a law degree. And so I know what that road can feel like, how it can feel lonely and alienating, and how you can sometimes feel separated from your family and from your community. And education is a wonderful thing, and it can transform lives. But for those of us, especially for those of us for whom we are the first in our family, it can lead to some sense of alienation and, frankly, some sense of loss. And so I really have a sense of what that means. And I know the grand adventures you all are about to embark on, and what stages you are going to go through. And so what I really want to tell you today is that, life is so much about opening our minds and relaxing into where we are. And this is going to sound weird, but one thing I've learned over time, a person can drown in a couple of inches of water, of course, but a person can drown in standing water. If they seize up, if they get tense and they don't relax, they can cause themselves, a catastrophe. Part of life is softening into spaces, softening into yourself. And that means internally finding a way to let go of some of that tension, the tension that we feel as we move into different spaces. As people of color, we frequently are called upon to move into spaces that are foreign to us, with people who are different than us. And that is something we get used to at an early age, and it's something we perfect. But it doesn't mean it isn't something that comes at some level of cost. And part of that cost can be that internal clenching, that feeling of uncertainty and insecurity. And we have to learn to breathe into that and let that go. And I think we do that by really understanding that you are more than enough. The amount of work you have done to get to where you are today is already an amazing achievement. And while we don't want to glorify suffering, suffering does have value, just like happiness has value. We don't know sun without rain, right? And so the road that you have walked to get to the point where you are today is so valuable. It gives you tools. I like to think of it as like a superhero's chest of tools that I can pull from, because I have been many places, been around many people, and I have walked very complicated roads. I've been in rooms where I'm the only Black person, only person of color. I've been in rooms with people whose families have private jets. And I've learned to carry my essential self with me everywhere I go. And that essential self is good enough to be in any place it is in. Wherever I am, that is by definition where I'm supposed to be. And so that comes from a sense of ownership and pride in your struggle and pride in your success. It doesn't mean we want to always have struggle, but it does mean we understand and we have pride in who we are. And, as you move and as you grow in this world, we are on the cusp of tremendous change. COVID-19, the pandemic, has brought, in my opinion, one of the biggest changes in the workplace since the Industrial Revolution. And that means how we work going forward should be, and likely will be, substantially different for many of you. That means a combination of virtual work. That means the opportunity to expand where you work versus where you live, splitting time. These types of innovations have tremendous opportunities for you as you look at the world that lays ahead of you. But with all those opportunities, I cannot tell you that we have fixed the issue of race and racism in the workplace. As a consultant, I spend a lot of time working with organizations that are just now trying to address inequity in the workplace. And I feel sometimes heartbroken because I don't want you all to inherit some of the things that I have already had to go through. And part of the reason I do what I do with my consulting firm is that my goal is to leave this world just a little bit better than I found it for the next generation of people who have to walk this road. And that actually is, for me, one of what people call core drivers. That's one of my core drivers about why I do what I do. And so in the workplace, you're going to find a situation where they're still trying to get it right. We are still trying to figure it out. Microaggressions are going to come up in the workplace. Racism is still real, and there's unconscious bias and conscious bias. And while things are much better than they used to be, that doesn't mean that there still isn't a long way to go. And the questions you will be asking yourself are, how do I navigate those spaces? How do I come into those spaces as my essential self and yet don't compromise my dignity and who I am? And what I would say is that as you enter the workspace, we all have to come in with an openness and a learning attitude. You know, people should know so much more than they do about the dynamics around race and ethnicity and gender in the workplace. We should be farther along, but we are not. And we have to deal with the truth of where we are. And so that means all of us have to come into spaces with an openness and with a curiosity. That doesn't mean that it's your job or your burden to teach people in your workplace about your ethnicity, your race, or your background. It does not mean that. But it does mean we have to recognize the limitations of people around us. And we have to strategize for how we can build alliances with other people of color in the workplace. I mean, one of the things we often talk about so much is how can we get white allies? How can we get mentors? How can we access white spaces? But we don't spend a ton of time once we get in the workplace thinking, how can we align and have alliances together as people of color in the workspace to support each other, to provide that kind of back channel information to each other that may not be accessible? How can we be that touchstone for each other as we move forward in progress? And I think that is an important part of moving into workspaces that are predominantly white. It's just how do we understand and connect with each other? And then as we do, move into spaces where we are trying to figure out how do we manage with bosses? How do we manage with supervisors? I think, there are so many things that I wish I would have known earlier, but the number one thing that I could tell you is try to understand and learn how different people communicate and come to know things, knowledge. And this is not something we talk about a lot. Everybody is different. And when we speak, we don't hear the same things and we aren't saying the same things, although we're using the exact same words. And so one of the things that I think can be most powerful to you as you move into workspaces is understanding the variety of communication styles that people have. And by that, I don't just mean like a DISC, if you've heard of that training, or Myers-Briggs, these are tests that tell you what your dominant communication style is. Yes, that's good, and you should have that. But also understanding the different cultural cues and communication styles that are going to show up in the workplace. Because as young people of color moving into the workspace, you undoubtedly have a cultural, a community sense of how you communicate and how the world communicates with you. And so that is the same for white people, that is the same for women, that is the same for people from the East Coast versus people from the West Coast. And it seems simple, but it actually is a foundational piece of knowledge. Because if we can understand what is missing when we are talking, how people are hearing us, how they're not hearing us, then we have a level of power that we can leverage in the workplace. And because that means we can design our messaging better when we interact with bosses and when we interact with other folks. And so just like a quick example of something like this, I was working with a client and he was telling me about an African-American woman who had been like a teller, but like the head of the group of tellers in a bank, and was lively and gregarious and all of this. And then when she was promoted to another position in the bank, she was very quiet, kind of standoffish, didn't say much. And he was very confused as to what was going on. It was like, oh, she's so in command and lively with the tellers, but then when she got the promotion, and one of the things that came up was cultural cueing, right? So from her perspective as an African-American woman, when she got that promotion, she couldn't be the comfortable person she was in the teller position. She was supposed to adopt this more rigid attitude in her mind, that is how I'm supposed to interact. And I need to be careful with these folks who are in this executive level, being myself, right? People notice that in workspaces. They notice when you are trying to put on other people's outfits, other people's clothes that don't fit you well. And so the question about how much authenticity do we bring into the workplace really depends on the level of safety and comfort you feel in the workplace. But it also, from my perspective, you should bring your essential self everywhere you go because it is really important. And after he talked to the woman, he understood, because at first he couldn't figure out like what happened to this great, lively, bubbly worker, and then he came to understand, oh, there's a piece of cultural communication that I didn't understand, right? So that's why I go back to one of the greatest tools you can have in your toolbox is understanding culturally how different people interact, how different people are hearing things, how they're coming to know knowledge. And one of the things you can do is say to people, can you help me understand what you thought I said? Because I'm not, I feel like we have a little disconnect. So can you help me understand what you think I mean? Or can you help me understand better what you are saying? You know, coming at something from a space of genuine, open curiosity, and uh, being alert to the fact when our language is not landing well and trying to figure out why. That is not the same as saying you need to change your language. It is to say we need to understand how it's landing and how other people are coming to know and understand. I have seen just some of the most strangest and ridiculous workplace problems come up because of this miscuing culturally, miscuing racially about what we think is said, what was said, how it was said, who understood what was said. And so, you know, if I would give you one tool, I would say that tool is to really interrogate and understand how you communicate, what cultural messages have you received, you know, depending on different cultures, especially first generation or second generation immigrants. Another common thing that can come up in the workspace is a company will say like, hey, we have all of these opportunities for how you can get a promotion. And, you know, you talk to your supervisor, you show them this and this. Well, if you come from certain cultural groups or ethnic groups, that might be considered disrespectful. That is a message that you have gotten from your community. Like, you wait, you do good work and you wait until people in authority notice you. But that's not the dynamic of some workspaces. You need to affirmatively move. And so part of one of the strongest things you can do is master yourself. Understand what messaging and cues that you have gotten throughout your life. Have you been told that it's not appropriate to challenge authority? Are you uncomfortable with eye-to-eye communication for different reasons? Are you fearful that if you are friendly and bubbly in yourself, that people are not going to respond well? Like, understanding what motivates you and where your triggers are is going to make you even more powerful in your space because you have better command of that. And then understanding how other people are interacting with that. So, like, as a practical tool, that's one of the practical tools I'd like to give you. And then just from a kind of a storytelling, you know, perspective of sharing with you, so I'm from originally Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and both my parents were married. But, you know, my home was a complicated one. You know, I grew up in a family with domestic violence. And as I said, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college and then law school. And I was always very much a person who was curious, very, very curious about the world around me and how things worked and what was going on. And so, you know, a lot of part of my life was, you know, self-motivation, but I also had a mother who was very invested in my success and made sure that anything I requested or had her drive me to or run me around to, that she did those things. But I know what a struggle it can be when you are trying to balance really complicated realities at the same time. And, you know, when I went into practice law, I started law as a attorney doing divorce and custody for victims of domestic violence. So that was one of my first jobs, was trying to help other women find other ways out of violence. And it was very, you know, fulfilling for me job. And yet, you know, after several years, I thought like, I don't want to live in this space, forever. This is not the space I want to live in all the time. And I realized that I can reinvent myself and that we can reinvent ourselves. And we don't have to be the thing we start out to be. There are many things we could be. And so from there, I had the opportunity to work in Washington, D.C. at a national association, a membership organization of legal services attorneys, people like me who had worked on the civil side. And I did training and advocacy and, did the whole DC thing. And from there, I got an opportunity to move to New York to run a foundation called Power of Attorney. We were a sub-grantee of another larger foundation called Atlantic Philanthropies. And it was really amazing. Like at the time, I didn't know that some of these things were setting me up for where I would be today. I told somebody the other day, because somebody said to me, how did you know when it was time to switch jobs? How do you know, was there a theme through all of these jobs? And what I would say is that in a lot of life, you need to get old enough to look backwards and see the thread. I couldn't see the thread at the time, but from this perspective, I see the thread that runs through all of those careers. And so from working in New York, running a foundation, I lived in New York during 9/11, and I was like, oh my gosh, you could get evaporated at work anytime. So what else do you want to do? And I had always had an interest in journalism, and I pursued a career in journalism. And I ended up as a news anchor for a decade, doing local television news. And, at a certain point, that no longer served me. And, in the workplace, sometimes we have to make hard choices. And in that workplace, I had to make some choices related to racial equity, gender equity, and pay. And it was a tough decision to make at my last place of employment. And yet, what came out of it, even though it wasn't a benefit for me, ended up being something I am very proud of to this day. Many things changed at that television station, including the amount of diversity that they have on air, the working conditions for people there, and even something as simple as lighting, which is not simple when you are a Black person working in television news, of getting more lighting on the anchors. And so I saw those changes happen after I left, but I had to make a decision about, I'm going to take a stand here and say that things are wrong and they need to change. And so in my life, I had to pick and choose when I could. And I also had to understand the consequences for choosing, right? And have some next plan set up. One thing about me that hopefully is helpful for you all is that I am the kind of person who believes in making shifts, but plans for their shifts. In other words, once I know in my mind, I start thinking like, hey, I'm tired of this. This is not working for me. I start to construct what the next step looks like. I start to work it out in my mind. I start to try to figure out the practical aspects. And so that when I am ready to make that shift, I go ahead and make that shift. Unbeknownst to sometimes people in the space, they're like, whoa, what happened? I'm like, yeah, I'm out. So, but I have spent time working on what that change looks like. I would say, from a work perspective, that there have definitely been times when I've stayed at a job too long. But also, looking back, don't know if it really was too long. And I say that because right now, where I am doing my consulting work, every single step of that road has come in handy. So, and in the mastery of each of those areas. So I was in each of those jobs long enough to master them. And so the mastery of that work has given me mastery over me today, which is, so then that begs the question, was it really too long, right? It's again hard when you are in it, and it's different when you are looking back. But, when I left television news, I went into nonprofit management, running Dress for Success Oregon, that many of you may have heard of, which is a local nonprofit. And I did that for 5 years. And then I decided I wanted to run my own consulting company. I wanted my own firm. I wanted to be my own boss. And here's an inside tip. You can be your own boss too. And I say that because even with a law degree, even with all kinds of experience, I have an undergraduate degree in the history of philosophy. I mean, I've done all kinds of crazy things. I did not clearly see how I could have my own business. It was still a bit of a mystery to me, because I assumed that people who were consulting or who had these types of businesses, they were already wealthy, or, they had a wealthy husband or wife or something. Like, I didn't really understand how it was possible for me. And this is the thing, like, sometimes we as people of color don't always see what's possible for ourselves because we're not exposed to it, or what we are exposed to is negative. Like, I had uncles who ran a store in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but it seemed terrible. Like they were working all the time and they like they had a lot of money. So I was like, oh, entrepreneurship does not seem very exciting. And so I didn't really connect it. I connected this for other people. And when I decided to take this leap of faith and move into the space of consulting around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and my company is named ITBOM, which stands for I'm the Boss of Me, LLC, because, I decided I am tired of chasing money as a nonprofit executive. Every year you're only as good as your last check, and your last check is literally the last check in your hand. And that's a hard life for such a long period of time, to me anyway. And so I decided all of the things that I have learned at this point have value, and I can pull all of these things together and I can sell them. I can sell my knowledge. And I gave it a shot, and it's been surprisingly successful. And, I can't tell you I did things the exact right way. I did not have a business plan or a 3-year plan, but I had an understanding of kind of where I was going deep in my soul, like that there was something that was missing around diversity, equity, inclusion, and I felt that it was something I could add. And so that certainty guided me. And then this is when all the other jobs and things come into handy, right? Because I did have a legal background. I have run an organization. I understand, how to get your books together. I know who to ask for certain things. So there were a lot of things that were already in place that kind of like Iron Man. Okay, there's like a superhero theme, but like all the pieces start pulling together and clicking on, and then, most tragically or sadly for me is that it was the murder of George Floyd that really woke people up, so many businesses and communities, to say, hey, we need to do better around diversity, equity, inclusion. We need to make a better environment for our staff. And so, it's the moment of opportunity meets history meets the moment that has given me the opportunity to, have a level of freedom that has been years in the making. But what I would say to you all is don't, and you may not, but don't think that things around entrepreneurship are not for you. Don't automatically assume that there's not a way in for you, because there are so many different ways. However, that being said, I do think it is worthwhile to get knowledge, to build your knowledge base so that you have at your command a whole host of things that you can bring to the service of whatever your primary driver in life is. And I guess that's the kind of one of the final things I would say as I get ready to wrap up is that what is your core driver? What drives you in life? Identify that thing and hold that thing. And as always, be prepared to understand that as we grow and change in life, that may change. So your core driver starting out in life may be, I want to bring social justice to this world. And that is a laudable core driver. And it's a core driver. It's one of my, primary drives. But on the way, you might end up having children and having a family. And another one of your core drivers might be, I want to provide for my children. And their success is my success. Our lives are fluid and they change, and the things that drive us change. And we have to be nimble, we have to be fluid, and we have to let go of that holding, that tenseness that sometimes live inside us, because it's that flexibility. It's that, if you don't struggle and you kind of ease up, you can float right up to the top, right? But if you are struggling, you can end up drowning yourself because you're so struggling against what is or what isn't, what's real or what's imagined, right? And so, I would encourage you to identify your primary drive. What is really driving you? What is the thing that speaks to your soul about your time on earth and the thing that you want to contribute to it? And be okay with the fact that that drive may change at different times in your life for a variety of reasons. Change is something that I have come to embrace. And the thing people always ask me about changing careers and all the different things I've done is, how do you do it? What is it? What is the secret to going from practicing law to New York to DC to being a news anchor to owning your own company? I said, the only thing I can say about that is that at some point in my life, I stopped caring about failing. And that doesn't mean I want to fail, but it does mean that I stopped caring about it. In other words, I know things are going to go bad. Like that's just the nature of averages. That's just the law of averages, rather. So I'm not as worried about the fact that there are not going to be good times. And so I tell people that all people see when they hear about me and they think about my stories, they see all the up parts, but there are all the low parts in the middle there where I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this rent, or what's going to happen next? Or, there's all those parts woven into that story too. And I would say that for me, building a resiliency for those times is how you get to the other times, is building that resiliency and also being able to see your way clear, see your way to another space, because it's possible. I have always been the kind of person who projects a little bit, projects forward in time. And so wherever I am, if things are not right at that moment, I think, all right, well, this is this moment, but the next moment holds all possibilities, right? And the ability to change, be that a couple of months or 1 year or 5 years, And so it's building in that kind of resiliency in yourself and mastering the art of understanding who you are, understanding how other people communicate. Those are those are amazing tools, and those tools are going to take you far. I mean, there are certain things that you can learn in school, but if you don't know how to apply them, if you don't have kind of the ability to transform those into useful tools, they really can't help you. But if you have these tools, mastery of self, understanding communication, understanding who you are, I mean, there's almost no place you can't go. One of the funny things I always like to say to my clients, and when we talk about what people can learn, I always say, well, from my perspective, there isn't much people can't learn if they spend time with somebody who knows, or if we help and show them, kind of like apprentice style. I mean, the only two things I've identified that people probably can't learn are rocket science and brain surgery. And you could probably learn brain surgery, but you might unfortunately harm or kill a lot of people in the process. So probably gonna leave that aside. But most things you can access, and it is really about your belief and knowledge of yourself. I mean, that is the key. And so I only have 30 minutes with you all today, and I am the kind of person who can ramble on and on and on forever. But I just want to say to you, each and every one of you, that I'm very proud of you. And I have so much hope for you. And I work every day for you. I, do the work I do with my companies. I try to clear the path. I'm trying to, burn the brush so that when you show up, you get a work environment that is better for you, that you have the opportunity to thrive and be the best that you can be. And so all I can ask of you each is to do some of that for the people after you. I just think, there's nothing more important in this world than blazing the path for others and laying a foundation for others' success. That is, our success. And so thank you so much for having me. I wish I could have been there with you in person. I hope these things that I have imparted and shared with you have meaning. And again, I'm just so very proud of you all. Have a great day.
Hello, welcome to the Emerging Leaders Internship 2021 mock interview program. We are so excited to have you here virtually or to be watching this program. We're excited that no matter how the society has changed and the ways that we do work and convene together has changed, that we are able to be present with you all and celebrate several candidates that are applying for the Emerging Leaders Internship. So my name is Amani Austin, and I am the Director of Data and Curriculum for the Emerging Leaders Program. And so I want to kind of walk us through a little bit about ELI's mission and talk a little bit about our who's in the room today, right? Who are all of these candidates, all of you that have shown up to interview and be part of this space. And then my coworker, Nick, will also talk about what the next steps are in the ELI process. So first, let's talk about the Emerging Leaders mission. So our mission is to empower diverse talent to excel as professionals through opportunity and a supportive community. So it is important for us that you all get the opportunity to reach your own professional goals. And we want to acknowledge that having opportunities and access to networks that get you there is really, really important. And as young leaders of color, you need support in order to reach that. And so we want to be able to be that for you. We also are excited to have all of you in this space because not only will you have a community through the networks and the professionals that you may meet as you move through this process, but as one another, right? As other college students, as leaders that are embarking on this journey for yourself, you become community. And so we are really excited to help bring that to life, right? To be able to convene you all together, to be able to move through your just professional and leadership development. So we're excited to have you here. This is our mission. And I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up for us this year. So when we talk in a broader perspective, the Emerging Leaders vision is building a more inclusive Portland. So we want Portland's workforce to actually reflect the diversity is here. And we do believe that people of color are present in this city, and you all are rising up as those leaders. And so as you get more opportunities in your professional environment, you will be the leaders of this city. And so that is the vision that we are pushing forward to through this program. So we're excited to announce that we have 126 company partners this year that will be providing paid internships. And that's going to produce about 170 positions. And so that means that we are expecting to have 170 interns this summer interning with us. And so we're really excited. And so as you think about what opportunities are available to you, just think about the fact that you will be in a community of 170 other interns that are navigating their own professional development alongside with you. So let's kind of take a step back and talk a little bit about who is in the room, who is interviewing in our mock interview process. So for the ELI process, we start with an application, which you all have completed, and we screen through those that are eligible. And those that are eligible and ready to move forward, we invite them to our mock interview event. So you can think of this as kind of the phase 2 of our screening process. And so of our applicants, 445 of you have been invited to this mock interview event. And so that is really amazing and powerful. It always just kind of humbles me that 445 students of color, right, want to convene and be in a space together to move towards their careers and are going to get to build community with one another and with the professional community within Portland, right? So really excited about that. We have over 30 colleges represented within those 445 applicants. And we have the bulk of you are graduating seniors, right? So you're either in your senior year or you're in your 3rd year, right? But we also have folks in other demographics. So when we think about ELI, ELI is for college students or recent grads. And so we want you to know that you are all welcome, but just to get a sense of who is kind of in this room today. So I want to talk a little bit about the opportunity to make impact. So some people may see these as barriers to success, right, for you, but we see them as opportunities. If you move forward in our ELI process, we hope to continue to help you reach these goals, right? So of those applicants that applied for the process this year, 63% of you say that you'll be the first in your family to graduate from college and you want to build your professional network. I also was the first in my family to graduate. And so I know that that is a journey, right? And it takes a lot of strength to be able to do that. And you don't do it alone. You do it with a network. You do it with a sense of community. And so we want to be community for you as many of you are trying to reach that milestone. 89% of you say that you want support as a person of color from this internship because you believe that we may be able to value the unique voice that you bring to the workplace. This is one of my favorite things about ELI, is really just honoring and celebrating leaders of color. And that's who you all are. We call you leaders because we believe that we're not making you great. You are already brilliant. We are helping you get access to opportunities so that you can share your brilliance, right? And so as a team of folks that is predominantly folks of color, we want to help support you in that journey. And so it's just exciting to hear that all of you, that most of you are really, really looking for that in this experience. And then the last point to just share is 91% of you are looking for mentors to help navigate your career, right? To advance in your career. And mentorship changes lives, right? It builds character, and it's a really, really powerful way to move forward. And so through the internship program, we make sure that you have mentors along the way. And my co-director, Nick, can talk a lot more about mentorship because that's his whole area of focus. But one of the things that we commit to you in the ELI experience is that mentorship and kind of that professional development opportunity. So we wanted to share for these because these were things that you all were excited about with joining this internship program. And these are also things that we commit to supporting you in. So moving around of kind of what type of industries do we provide internships for, and are you all looking for? So of all of the 445 that have applied and been invited to the mock interview event, 26% are in the marketing and communication sector, while 24 are in the tech sector, and 22% are in people and engagement. And so we really just wanted to show you that there's a diversity of different sectors that you all are in. And it's important to understand that as you go through these mock interviews during the season, this is actually not about competing with the individual that's next to you, right? You're not competing with other folks, right? You are growing and challenging yourself to reach your own goals, right? Because the people that you're interviewing with may not be in the same field as you, right? But this is about you learning and fine-tuning your gifts. Also, I know sometimes people get really nervous because I've never had an internship before. I don't have a lot of experience. Well, more than half of you, 63%, have not had an internship experience, and that's okay. We're excited to be one of your first internship experiences, and we're excited to be able to provide you a paid internship experience during this journey. So one of the things I'm so excited to talk about is the cultural diversity of our candidates. So you all identify as folks of color because that is part of what this community is. And so just being able to see what that diversity looks like. So if you see on this PowerPoint some of the different numbers, as well as more than half of you identify as women. And so as we are trying to support you all in your careers, I think it's an exciting thing to see more women and more people of color really being able to feel equipped to navigate the professional environment. And then the last thing, beyond just your race and ethnicity, we asked you what your country of origin is, right? And what you identify. And from our 445 applicants, there are 44 countries represented and reflected. And so it's just really beautiful and exciting to hear about the diversity of you all. And not only are your diversity of your experience and country of origin, but your thought and your passion and your goals. And so just really excited to meet you all as we move forward in this process. So just wanted to be able to kind of lay the land of who's in the room, give you some context about ELI, and my co-director, Nick, is going to talk a little bit more about what happens after the mock interview event. So you went through this interview process, and what should you expect next, and how do you best prepare yourself for those next steps? So Nick, feel free to go ahead and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Amani. Yes, my name is Nick Poindexter. I'm Director of Community Partnerships and Mentoring with Emerging Leaders. Really excited to just share about next steps. Thank you for those that are viewing, whether you be, ELI candidate or a volunteer or community member. Just grateful for your presence and support of the work that we're doing. So first, today obviously is the mock interview event. We'll have 2 weekends of that today, and then next weekend. And this is an opportunity for evaluators to provide feedback to candidates. And so for candidates, soak up everything, really listen in, ask questions, and really just be it's okay to be nervous, and it's okay to whether you just went through the interviews or you're going through the interviews coming up next week, whatever that looks like for you. We're excited for you to participate and just soak up all of that information and really use that to put your best foot forward. And so the next step from there is internship matching. So our team, along with volunteers that support our work, will be diligently matching in the month of March. So we'll be unavailable, but we focused in really trying to identify, the candidates to connect with, the right companies based off of what companies are looking for. And so the great thing that candidates can be doing during this time, and all the folks that are preparing for a potential interview, is just that, right? Prepare for those interviews. Sharpen your resume and really make sure that you are going through your head and reviewing the feedback that you received, and maybe even doing some mock interviews with folks. And I'll have a next steps slide where I'll talk about some things that you can be doing in the meantime. But really, the month of March is our team actively identifying and matching potential candidates with potential companies. And then the next step is company interviews and offers. And so that's within the month of April and May. And so by mid-April to late April, you will receive an update on a potential match, and you'll be able to receive that notification. So just, we'll also highlight things to be thinking about. But like I said, in the interim, really just be preparing. And once you do, once you are potentially, if you are indicated to be matched with the position, do your research and really be all in with that. So companies will be reaching out to candidates, as mentioned, between you'll likely get connected within the if you're selected for a potential interview within the month of April, sort of mid to late April. And then lastly, if you are indicated as interviewing and you get selected and offers made to you, then you'll have the 2020 intern orientation. That'll be June 12th. And so that's a really exciting event. And I'll sort of share a little bit more about on this, next slide, but then you'll, attend the orientation, and then you'll also attend the summer events, professional development events. And I'll sort of dig a little bit deeper on the next slide to talk more about that. So for the summer events, the first one, as mentioned, is, and these are required events, so I just want to highlight that, the orientation, which is Saturday, June 12th. And really, that's an opportunity for you to see who's a part of your community, right? The other ELI interns, be able to meet our team and maybe potential other folks that might be speakers, at that. And we'll let you know more information, about what that event will look like and more details if you are identified, if you are selected as an ELI intern for the summer. There'll be a workshop where we really talk about building your self-confidence in the workplace. In June. In July, there'll be a workshop about advancing your professional portfolio. And so that's really a great way to continue to just develop you. Not only are we about access to connect you with internships, but we're also about really continuing to help you to grow professionally. You'll see a couple notes on here for ELI Tech events, and that's for our candidates or the folks that are identified as getting tech internships. They'll be a part of this cohort of ELI Tech folks, and so those will only be required for those individuals. But all of them are required. All of the others will be required for folks, and then specifically, like I mentioned, the ones for tech are specifically for those. In addition to, they'll be attending the other ones as well. After that, in August, we'll have another ELI Tech event, as well as the end of the summer networking event. And that's really an excited event to come together as a community. There'll be other folks from the community, company partners, and it's really a nice way to just celebrate the summer and just the, what took place that summer and just really come together and get excited. But I guess the next sort of thing as we sort of think about this is like, what do you do in between, right? So what are those next steps or expectations? I mentioned some of them, but sort of wanted to go through them as some reminders, right? So key things are checking your email and portal account. So really, cleaning up your email, because I know sometimes things can get lost in your email. So just making sure that you're actively checking that and aware of what's coming in, and that you are checking your portal account. Also set up your voicemail box on your phone. You might, companies might reach out to you via phone. And so it's really important to not have your voicemail, too many, because if you have too many voicemails on there, your voicemail could be full and you'll miss that, opportunity. Or just making sure your voicemail is set up, right? Because if it's not set up, you're not gonna be able to get that voicemail. So just making sure that you're, checking that, keeping it empty, and really being on top of that. Respond within 24 hours. Like really make it happen. You need to be hungry. You need to make sure that you're, don't make any excuses. Really be on top of it, because that's really also going to show, if you are selected for an interview, that's going to show companies like that you're ready for business and ready to take care of things. So make sure that you're all in and responding as quickly as possible. No later than within 24 hours. Use your network, and what I mean by that is, try to ask your network to connect you with people from organizations you're interviewing, where you're interviewing, right? So do your research. So you might know somebody that knows somebody at a company, and so just learning as much as you can about that company, about that opportunity, about what the culture is, just soaking that up, because the more prepared you are in understanding what the opportunity is, what the company is, and just what you could be doing, and even knowing people there, those things are really going to help you to set yourself apart. So really make sure you're doing your research, you're connecting and learning more with people that are connected to those organizations. Work on your resume. You submitted a resume for your application, but this is an opportunity to fine tune that and sharpen that ahead of connecting with the company potentially. Create and update your LinkedIn profile. Folks will check LinkedIn profile, especially being at home a lot more often. That is a key way to communicate and connect with folks and just learn more about you. So make sure that you create that or keep it updated, and then review the resources we send you. We'll send you some resources, so make sure you're reviewing those and staying on top of that. If you're asking an evaluator to connect with you, make sure you're following up, right? So when you say you're going to do something, make sure you're doing it, because that holds a good impression for you. It really is going to also set you apart. So making sure that you're following up on any commitments or promises made. If you decide to withdraw, let us know right away. That's really important that we know who's available to be connected with for potential interviews. And also just have fun with the experience. Have fun. Hopefully those that are watching this that maybe already did the interview, hopefully you had fun and were able to dive in. And those that may be doing it next week, that you just have fun with the experience, and even have fun and learn as much as you can. Because really, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, it's an opportunity for you to learn, for you to grow, and for you to get connected with other folks. And lastly, on this next slide, it's really you being able to learn, see our social media handles, share about your experience, even though we're doing this virtually, right? And, if you already finished your interviews, make sure you share about, your experience, and make sure you're, there's a hashtag ELI 2021. Just make sure that you're sharing about your experience, and with your networks, and really, follow us to see what's happening and what's, the updates in our community. And at the end of the day, I just want you to know, like, be encouraged. You are awesome, and we're excited for you. And no matter what happens, just be all in, soak up this opportunity. And we're so grateful for you to be a part of this community. And we're so grateful for your future. And thank you for all our volunteers and company partners and everyone that makes this happen. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.